Irish unification, which will happen in my lifetime. I believe it. I know it. But of course, before we get to Irish unification, let's talk about who is in favor of it and who's not. Zohran, also known as Zohran Mamdani, as St. Patrick's Day Parade, Mayor Mamdani says a united Ireland, as someone who believes in the principle of self-determination, I think that we should be something extended, should also be something extended to the Irish. Sounds like he favors a referendum. Indeed, I do, Governor Hochul says when asked if she supports a reunited Ireland. Elaborating on his comments from earlier about Irish solidarity with Palestine, Mamdani says what we've seen time and time again is that it has been the Irish who have been standing up whenever there has been a person or a people oppressed. Okay? Getting outflanked by Kathy Hochul on this issue is so funny, especially because, like, in American history, as far as like the Irish efforts, as far as Irish efforts goes, like, there are American Republican congresspersons that were actively fundraising to get weapons for the IRA. Okay? This is one of the only instances where Americans have been cool and on the correct side of a people's emancipatory movement, okay? Partially because it's against England and against British Empire, partially because there's a lot of Irish diaspora here in the United States of America. But it is very funny. It is very funny that this was terribly embarrassing to take from Zohran. First of all, it's the most inconsequential one. It's not serious. I'm not being serious at all when I make fun of him for this. Okay? I'm not even in any way, shape, or form being sincere with my criticisms. This is totally just like a joke. However, he's the fucking mayor. No. Because it's an inconsequential thing. It's so inconsequential that Donald Trump is in favor of it, and so is Kathy Hochul, and I believe it was Matt Iglesias who said this is the most right-wing position that a New York mayor has ever taken. Okay? And he's right. Zohran Mamdani's initial point on Irish reunification was technically more right-wing than any prior New York political figure. Yeah, look, it's not even a joke. And it's only because this is the one instance where Americans universally consider this to be a done thing. Like, they're like, yes, liberate Ireland, unite Ireland. There's only one Ireland. No holds barred. That's why it's funny. It's one of those things where, like, every single person is in unison, totally on the side of, like, the Irish emancipatory movement in the United States of America, except Zohran is doing this like, oh, I don't want to this up. Oh, I don't know.
And then on Ireland, you've talked about the importance of self-determination and international law. Do you support a united Ireland?
It's funny. Wow.
I got to be honest, I haven't thought enough on that question. I have to say, though, that I am incredibly appreciative of the privilege to lead a city where...
Bro, I mean, there's this, by the way, this doesn't mean anything. This is not real, okay? Before people get like in their feelings, okay? Before people get in their feelings, he just doesn't know anything. That's it. He's a very smart guy. He's a very good mayor, okay? And I think a lot of people assume, like, when someone is primed on Gaza, when someone is like very aware of American imperialism and like Palestine, Western imperialism in Gaza, that like they know everything about, you know, the ways in which empires work or revolutionary or emancipatory movements overseas. No, he just doesn't know what to say. It's the same principle behind him being asked about Venezuela and then him going, yeah, Venezuela and Cuba both are run by corrupt, tyrannical dictators. It's like, no, he just doesn't know. Like, that's it. And a lot of people think like, no, these guys are, I mean, the guy running for mayor should know all this stuff, which I think someone like Zohran should know this stuff, but like clearly it's an irrelevant point. Like, this is not a significant point for the New York mayor. For me, I find this more illustrative of just the way he operates, where he's like, one, there are blind spots in his education when it comes to internationalism, which is very clear, right? And two, he always is like scared. He's just like very scared to say something that's going to come across as offensive. And it's funny because it's like, dude, it's okay. It's okay. Okay. Zohran, Sons of Ulster Mamdani. Zohran Unionist Mamdani. It's just like, again, it's just, for me, it's just not a significant issue at all. It's so inconsequential and so insignificant that like even Kathy Hochul is like, yeah, of course, unite Ireland. Like, you know what I mean? It's not a thing.
Irish Americans have played such a critical role in this city. We know that when it comes...
Dude, he's like, a united Ireland reminds me of, a united Ireland reminds me of the initiatives that I've taken place in this beautiful city, the greatest city of all time, New York City, of uniting all of the tenants in their united struggle against bad landlords. It reminds me of the affordability agenda. He's just, everything goes back to the affordability agenda with this, bro. I swear to God. If I can unite the 5 boroughs in fighting for an affordability agenda, I believe Ireland can also be united in fighting against British Empire. The ESA should do better political education for their members. I think like they do all right. They have different caucuses. This is like, you know, I think like anti-Zionism has become like a individual thing, and then like anti-war or like internationalism is totally separate. And remember, it's just the average person's knowledge on this stuff is so bad. Yeah, he had 2 follow-ups here. Let's see.
The story.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Have you had a chance to think more about a united Ireland?
There's always more to learn, but I can tell you as someone who believes deeply in the principle of self-determination that I think that should also be extended to the Irish. And I think when it comes...
Bro, it's like it's like Kat Abu Ghazaleh. Bro, they're going to cook his ass. The first moment that they ask him about Taiwan, he's going nuclear first strike. It's so over. I swear to God. Oh, buddy. Oh, brother.
to the future of Ireland, the best people to listen to are the...
Heart of Empire is corrupting. No, you guys operate on this boundary that this is like a principled, well thought out stance that Zohran arrived at off of his own interpretation of historical events, and you know, the emancipatory effort of the Irish is just him trying to be safe, brother. He doesn't know. He just doesn't know anything. It's understandable. You forget. I think many of you partially take for granted this space that I have created for you, and you don't have any understanding of what the average person's opinion on this shit is. Not only that, but also you don't remember a time when you didn't know anything about the history of Ireland, right? You came in here, you learned about it because I've covered it quite a bit. I went to Ireland, and now you assume every American should have the exact same knowledge on these issues. That's it. And then you assume like, oh, he's pulling a Barack Obama. I think like the arguments are much easier to understand. For the average person, he's the mayor of New York. What the f does he know about Irish history, you know? That's it. You were backing provisional IRA before the Ireland trip. Yes, because this is my fascination. This is my interest. Also, you have to remember, I wasn't raised in the United States of America. When you're not raised in the United States of America, your starting position is very different. A lot of people in here don't realize that I'm giving them a perspective that might be commonly shared by a lot of people, that's outside of the United States of America. I didn't grow up in the imperial core. I grew up in a vassal state. But when you grow up not in the imperial core, you develop a very different understanding of American interventions, things of that nature, and you might even be fascinated with like different groups that have actively fought back against Western imperialism, and that's it. That's where it comes from. At the end of the day, Zohran got his education in New York City. Zohran is an American, okay, through and through. He has a little bit of that internationalist framework, given who his father is, given who his mother is, given his lived experience as well. But like, you got to remember, like, there's gonna be shortcomings here. It's fine. This is not like a sincere framework that he's operating off of. It's just him trying to be as safe as possible without knowing, when he doesn't have all of the information. He just tries to play it safe, which I respect. I get it. Like, especially because this is the most inconsequential thing. I'm just joking. I'm memeing. I need everybody to understand. When I'm clowning on this take, that's coming from jokes.
Pleasure of doing so as the mayor of this city, and I look forward to having that pleasure for weeks and months and years to come.
So you're going to sign the buffer zone?
Are you going to sign the buffer zone bill? Why won't you answer?
Well, it's 26 plus 6.
Anyway, I've seen several people with vastly different political ideologies tweet this with vague posts about how the answer is obvious, and I cannot for the life of me imagine why the mayor of New York or any non-limey should give a shit about this. Yeah, I think it's utterly irrelevant because it's like a established rallying cry. It's almost safe. It's one of the safest, cool foreign policy positions that like every American politician can get on board with. I think if any American politician were to come out and just be like, oh, I don't know about a united Ireland, people would be like, get the f out. What are you talking about? It's one of those things. It's like, it's a given. Yeah, it'd be silly to assume Hochul and others have a firmly held belief / philosophy behind their support of this. Exactly. Like, that's my point, right? Ostenox popped off on this. The bit where we ask him increasingly unrelated foreign policy questions is really funny, especially because he cannot become U.S. president. I love that. Out here posting like this. Sounds like people are fishing for something to be mad about. It is crazy that like everything he says, look, I'm going to be very honest with you. Okay. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to reveal something. Zohran very clearly has tremendous international presence. Okay. I think he recognizes that. Right. And because of that, things that he says about American foreign policy are actually very relevant. And I think he recognizes that as well. I worry sometimes about how he considers international policy and an internationalist framework to be somewhat of a distraction. I worry about that quite a bit. And the reason why I say that is because like people do take his word. People do care about his perspective. They see him as the guy, whether he wants to be that guy or not, whether he just wants to keep his head down and be a great mayor or not, it doesn't matter. Right. And I personally want him to come out with a clear statement on what the American government is doing to Cuba, which might actually offend the Trump administration a little bit, which he might not want to do because he has a lot of, he's backing the admin right now for a lot of these like development projects. But I know that Zohran has the capability of massaging that narrative in a way where it doesn't offend Trump's sensibilities too much. Maybe you just partition it with like Marco Rubio. Maybe you blame Marco Rubio or whatever. But I want him to come out and make a statement about Cuba. And I've told him this. Okay. Like there is a way to do it. There's a way to craft it in a way that won't offend Donald Trump. But I think it's important for this exact reason, because even when it's like silly like a united Ireland, right? Even when it's a silly thing like the United Ireland, like it dominates the media for days on end. Anything he says dominates the media for days on end. That's very powerful. You got to use that power for good. You got to use that power to elevate people that are suffering under the thumb of suffering under the thumb of the American empire, the evils of American empire, whether they be people in Palestine or whether they be people in Cuba, right? So hopefully he'll, we'll be able to get like AOC and Zohran Mamdani and other prominent figures that are supposed to be the leaders of this progressive movement to come out and release some statements in coordination with the flotilla, especially considering that there are a lot of prominent international, like prominent politicians from Europe that will also be participating in this, because this is something that we've been putting together for quite a while, for a couple months now. And a lot of work went into it. And it's not just like, like from your perspective, it might just look like me, I'm just going with my friends or whatever, but that's not the case. This is like a huge aid mission, right? Code Pink and the Answer Coalition has put together hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of solar panels and other forms of aid, medical aid, food aid, things of that nature. There are people flying in from all around the world, people coming with boats, people coming by plane, and it's pretty serious business. It's also pretty devastating what we've done to Cuba. So I think like it's important to get some of our leaders, some of our leaders in the progressive movement in America to also highlight this plight and highlight what our government has done to the Cuban state, to the Cuban people. So yeah, is there any way you can get some barrels of oil in there? I wish. Zohran filling all holes except the hole in Ireland. Why is he still working with Trump, a kid eater pedo? Why does he continue to work with Trump after the files, dude? I don't know, man. Maybe because he's the mayor of New York and that's the president of the United States of America. It's like saying, why is the Cuban government trying to communicate with the pedophile? What are you supposed to do? Like, people are desperate. Okay. They are trying to do everything they can. Yeah. It's like, this is the dumbest version of why are you platforming Trump? He's the mayor of New York, man. He has an obligation to his people. He has projects that need funding. He's going to work with Kathy Hochul, and he's doing a pretty solid job at that so far. Even though it's been difficult. He has a $12 billion budget shortfall that he has to overcome as the mayor due to the previous administration's idiotic maneuvering and outright corruption. And you're out here confused about why, things are going the way that they're going. It's ridiculous, right? Damn, that sucks. I mean, this is a genuine question. How will the aid get distributed without the oil? Is there a plan for this? Nah, dude, we just didn't even think about that. We didn't even think about that. We're just going to dump it on the ground when we get there. We're going to be like, here, solar panel. We're just winging it, dude. There's no coordination. I need you guys to understand something. In order to do this, in order to pull off something like this, we have to work with the Treasury. You understand that, right? We got to get OFAC clearance, for example. Like, you have to work with the American government. You have to work with the Cuban government. You can't conduct an aid mission like this, like, randomly. So we're working on it. And, we've been doing all of that. It all has to be above board. It all has to be legal. It all has to work within the complex legal system that the American government has designed in an effort to make it as difficult as humanly possible to help Cuban people. Yeah, right? You can try, but you might get shot after being mistaken for insane expat terrorists. Yeah, no, that's not happening. All right, so of course you don't have the balls to do guerrilla aid mission to Cuba. What? Okay. Does that you need a passport? What? Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand. Like, you can still fly to Havana right now from Miami if you wanted to. You can fly to Cuba directly right now. Anyway, he tied it back to Gaza a little bit. Mamdani rips genocide in Palestine during St. Patrick's Day event.
I say this as over the past few years, as we've witnessed a genocide unfold before our eyes, there has been deafening silence from so many. For those who have long cared about universal human rights and the extension of them to Palestinians, silence, however, is nothing new. for Palestinians are so often left to weep alone. Yet former President Robinson has never been silent. Not when she was president, not when she was High Commissioner for Human Rights, and not in the decades since. As she once said, commemoration is a moral act.
Did you
Her
unfollow
solidarity is
Zohran
many
on IG? What? No.
things: unwavering, sincere, and chief among them, Irish. Irish solidarity is no coincidence. Who can better understand those who weep than those who have been made to weep for so long? The story of the Irish, both in Ireland and in New York City, is at one time a story of oppression, of subjugation, and of discrimination. As we know, it was on Irish soil that the British Empire developed their colonial project. So much of the exploitation later imposed elsewhere across the world was first honed in the plantations of Ireland. And yet when I think of the Irish, I do not think first of oppression. I think of resistance. I think of unity. I think of corned beef and 96-minute Troy Parrott goals and the Pogue's Fairy Tale of New York. Above all, I think of that solidarity.
I feel so dumb. I was wondering why everyone's asking, but it's St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. The Global South and the Irish united and being over by the British. Yeah. That's why Irish people automatically are some of the most base people you've ever met. Some of the best white people you've ever met, because their history and their background is of an oppressed peoples. That's it. Like, they've been genocided, they've been dominated, and they have fought back against the British Empire. Together with the left party, we shipped a couple containers of agricultural equipment to Cuba in the last 3 years. Please snipe. I know people that organize humanitarian aid in the German party, the left. Yeah. Irish people know famine. Irish people know genocide. Irish people know being dominated by British Empire, by Western colonialism, Western imperialism. And that is why, because of that revolutionary history, the average Irish person has a very different understanding of imperialism in general. It's not an accident that, like, Irish people are so quote unquote woke when it comes to the issue of Palestine, so woke when it comes to apartheid South Africa. It genuinely comes from the revolutionary history of Ireland. It's one that here in the United States of America we try to LARP as well, considering that our revolutionary war against British Empire also led to the formation of the American state. The difference between us and the Irish, however, is that we also did a ton of indigenous genocide, the erasure of the indigenous peoples. We also continued to implement and defend chattel slavery. We participated in 400 years of colonial rape and plunder of Africa, and that is the reason why Americans have a very different approach to this issue, and have become an empire itself, rather than continue having anti-imperialist sentiment.
The story of the Irish, both in Ireland and in New York City, is at one time a story of oppression, of subjugation, and of discrimination. As we know, it was on Irish soil that the British Empire developed their colonial project. So much of the exploitation later imposed elsewhere across the world was first honed in the plantations of Ireland. And yet when I think of the Irish, I do not think first of oppression. I think of resistance. I think of unity. I think of corned beef and 96-minute Troy Parrott goals and the Pogue's Fairy Tale of New York. Above all, I think of that solidarity. When Irish immigrants arrived in New York City, they were so often barred from employment and from housing. Signs plastered across storefronts read, "Help wanted, no Irish need apply." And yet while Irish New Yorkers were, in the poetry of Evan Boland, long suffering in the bruise-colored dusk of the New World, they did not grow discouraged. They banded together. They organized. They formed labor movements that endure to this day. It was Irish hands that helped to build so much of the city that we recognize today. The skyscrapers that pierce clouds, the tunnels carved through bedrock. And we can see an example of that legacy in the incredible labor leaders that we have with us today, both in this room and beyond this room. And as we celebrate St. Patrick's Day together, and as I belatedly acknowledge our State Senator Brian Kavanaugh as well, we celebrate not just a day of revelry, but a day of continued obligation to one another, to a better world, to all those who still weep. And I want to thank President Robinson again for joining us. I want to thank the people of Ireland who have taken a past of suffering and used it to fight for a future of justice. And I want to thank every Irish New Yorker for helping make this city into what it is today.
Ireland might be even more pro-Palestine than Zohran Mamdani is. I know for a fact that that is the case, yes. Mayor Zohran Mamdani on Tuesday compared the plight of the Irish to the genocide in Palestine as he used the St. Patrick's Day celebration to rip the deafening silence from so many on the Israel-Hamas war. Ireland might be even more pro-Palestine than Zohran is. I mean, of course. That's without a doubt. Yes, Irish people are more pro-Palestine than the average American. Absolutely, without a doubt. That's not even a question. Didn't you go to Belfast, Aviv? Wait, what? Belfast, Aviv? Listen, there's the Irish people in Dublin, and then there's the Irish people in Belfast. Okay? The Irish people in Belfast, up until recently, lived under conditions not dissimilar to the occupation of Palestinians in the West Bank. Sometimes these were forces of empire that worked alongside one another, okay? Whether it be the Black and Tans or the Israeli occupational forces. The idea, I will never allow people to tarnish the good reputation of people of Belfast, okay? Never, not even once. The average person living in the north of Ireland is more radical, has more radicalism in their pinky finger than the most aggressive communist you've ever met in your life living in the United States of America. 100%. 100%. Yeah, the Black and Tans were sent to Palestine in the 1920s. It's the same folks. Anyway, Mamdani blessed Trump administration's catastrophic and illegal strikes in Iran. That's good. I mean, he pushes back when he needs to, so I hope he can say something about Cuba as well. BPAC Tracker is roasting you for being sponsored for your Belfast Aviv trip. BPAC Tracker. The fact that Mamdani can comfortably just deflect on a question of Irish unification says more about how the Irish vote has just disappeared this century. It used to be a real thing you had to consider in New York. Giuliani hosted Jerry Adams. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Irish unity was a non-starter for many Americans, especially American politicians in New York. The fact that like there isn't this isn't like a sincere question from a nationally prominent mayor of New York cuts away at like a lot of generational history of New York politics that made it so that this was like, again, that would be considered an unconscionable mistake in a different generation. Like having a wishy-washy approach to it. That's precisely the reason why all these older politicians that are to the right of Zohran Mamdani outflanked Zohran by saying, yes, of course, Irish unity now. That's the point I was trying to make, including Donald Trump, apparently. Let's take a look.
Great job. Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, and they get along so well. I saw that. You get along very well together. That's the way it's supposed to be, huh? I don't know if I should be promoting merger. I love mergers, but I didn't. We're going to get in a little trouble. We're going to get in more trouble with that than the beauty. But Emma, Little, Pengali, thank you very much, Emma. Thank you very much. Steve.
Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, and you get along so well. I don't know if I should be promoting mergers. I love mergers, but we're going to get in a little trouble. We're going to get in more trouble with that. Anyway, it is wild how right-wingers can be right on Irish unity and just not understand the Israel occupation. Yeah. I've been learning Irish for a couple of months so I can better listen to Kneecap Smugglers and Scholars of Banger. I feel like I don't see the same diaspora narrative for the Irish as you do for Iranians and Cubans, for example. Is that right, and why? No. For the longest time during their period of the Troubles, the Irish diaspora, like Irish Americans, were very aggressively pushing not only for political cover and political support, but also not only were they pushing for political support for the IRA, but they were also literally funding. They were offering material support to an established terrorist group. The IRA was, by the British occupation's assessments, a full-blown, fully fleshed terrorist group. American politicians were fundraising to offer material support to what the British government considered a terrorist organization. This is real. Republican politicians in the state of New York were literally trafficking guns. My great-great-grandfather gave a part of his check from the steel mill to the IRA through his Catholic church law. Yeah. Churches, bars in New York and all around the country where there are, Irish people would literally have straight up tip jars at the bar. They would take the money. And literally purchase weapons and then illegally traffic weapons to Ireland. It's not like this is one of the instances where like Americans universally were on the right side of politics of an oppressed peoples, because it was anti-English, anti-British. New York Mayor Mamdani meets with Sinn Féin TD Louise O'Reilly at the Irish American Labor Coalition of St. Patrick's Day and quotes James Connolly, "The cause of Ireland is the cause of labor and the cause of labor is the cause of Ireland." Yeah.